Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, joined by Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, my awesome friends and co-hosts. I'll tell you what, guys, we got a great episode today. I think I might say that every podcast from now on, but the LCS keeps giving us content to talk about, and so every episode is going to be a banger as long as they keep on providing. So today we're going to touch upon three big things and, hit a whole bunch of other stuff in between there. But first up, we're going to talk about C9 because although they might not be the best on paper, to a lot of people, they seem to be the most exciting to watch. And, maybe they're better than most people initially thought. And so we're going to discover and explore whether C9 could make a case to even be second or even first. And then we'll look at EG, who, many people were hyped with. I was really hyped. I was on the JoJo train, still am. But since losing to Team Liquid in the lock-in, they haven't looked that great. And honestly, even the wins that they did have were kind of shaky. So we'll reevaluate them. And then finally, guys, after a long-awaited wait, the TSM CLG Rivalry is back, but in the worst way possible, because now they are competing
in the best way possible.
In the best way possible. Okay, yes, true. Because they are both the only teams that are 0-4, so it's like, who is the best of the worst? So yeah, if you guys have missed that, then it's time for that again. But before we get into all that, I gotta ask you guys, first question, first icebreaker. What was the most exciting or even interesting game that you watched this weekend? And just to kind of throw in some options there, we did have Team Liquid versus C9, 100 Thieves versus Evil Geniuses, great matchups there. We have the Immortals upset over 100 Thieves, who, were looking amazing in week one. And then, the TSM and Golden Gardens Fiesta. So, lots of games to choose from. And I'll let you guys go ahead and speak and tell me what was the most interesting or exciting.
Well, for me, I'm personally going to go with 100 Thieves Immortals. I personally had a lot of fun watching that game, partially because it was unexpected, and I think that was what gave a lot of the enjoyment out of me. Because, obviously, TL and C9 was a great game. I was watching it again just before we started because there's a lot to unpack, but at the same time, that's exactly what I expected. So, for me, that's what I got.
Sweet.
Yeah, I thought those were some pretty interesting games, especially the TL versus C9 for me. But I did really like the TSM Golden Guardians game. That was really fun to watch, just like as in these teams are really bad. It was how far TSM has dropped. It was kind of interesting. I felt like it was Tactical's probably best game he's had, but also he was like the reason they were winning or losing, and it just felt like, I don't know. There's not really a team behind him, whether he's playing well or not. So, kind of unfortunate. I'm still amazed that Blaze Olive got away with a win in that game after TPing to a side lane and dying like 5 times in a row. It was really hard to watch, but also amazing. And shout out to the casters. They made it much more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yep.
Homeboy's got a spot on 100 Thieves with those kind of heists, dude. He did not deserve to get that win. So for me, I would say TL versus C9 was the most exciting for me. I'm a TL fan, and I wanted to see this match. And then it was very back and forth, or a lot of very cool strategies on display. I'm also going to say right now, Jhin is not a bad pick in that comp. And I don't know why people think that, but I thought it was fine. I thought it was actually quite good. And then I would say a close second would be the last 15 minutes of TSM versus GG. I was about to tune out. I'm like, oh man, this game's over. And then it wasn't. And there were so many little. It felt like watching your friends play. There's so many little misplays, and then they win, and you're like, yeah, we did it. But I'm like, what happened, guys? You guys both lost. So I thought that was an amazing game for entertainment purposes, and that's good. TSM might be just like the opposite of C9. You'll watch every game. They might lose every game, but it's exciting to watch because you're just like, wow.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, lots of games, even for me, which one that I actually didn't mention, but I thought was interesting, maybe because it was the first game of the week, was the EG versus, who did they play first? Dignitas, I believe it was. And EG, I was surprised to see ran the Karma top smite with Impact. And, I was kind of like, I didn't think they were running it that great. Impact was getting caught, a few times. I didn't even think they were running that strategy optimally. And yet, at a certain point, once they got past it, it seemed like all was doomed for Dignitas there. So lots of interesting things that happen. And we'll get to that a little bit more because I do want to dive into EG. But first, I think there's a lot of hype building around Cloud9, and I think it's rightfully deserved. There was the whole kind of Church of LS storyline that was, coming in, and, the fact that he couldn't get here right away kind of built more into that, hype. And now that he's here and we've seen these crazy drafts with enchanters and, even with this week, C9 went 1-1. They did lose to Team Liquid, but they still had an interesting draft. And then they won one of their games. So they look good. And I think maybe better than what some people thought, but also I think what people are really hype about is like their drafts, their strategies, their play styles. So let's talk about them a little bit. Anything you want to say as to maybe why this is, or are you guys on that hype train as well?
For me, it's hard to say it's as much of a hype train for me personally, because actually I guess it is. Everyone kind of expected them to be top few teams, which isn't really a big surprise. C9's always really been a top tier team for the most part. My biggest takeaway from them though is I think they're going to be competing for a second place spot. I think at this point it's pretty clear, at least in my opinion, that Team Liquid's the first place team.
Mm-hmm.
I think their loss so far, at least in the spring split, was a fluke. After watching these games, and I would also say the biggest thing that is holding Cloud9 back from Team Liquid would be the difference between Isla and Winsome.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Just after watching the game, or those two match up, there was just such a clear gap between the two. And technically Thresh is not bad into Rakan, he's supposed to win the Rakan matchup. He shouldn't win it. It's not that one-sided. It felt just very Ayla favored, or Isla, however you pronounce it. It felt so. It felt like Core JJ was still there, at least to me. It was just.
Yeah. I thought it was a pretty interesting matchup. Honestly, didn't have that much insight into the bot lane that Alistair is able to give, but I did notice a lot, just like from the draft wise. I was honestly hoping that Cloud9 was going to do an enchanter mid, just to kind of like, battle philosophies, see where Cloud9 and Team Liquid match up, right? We saw EG kind of almost get a hand on beating it and then kind of throw. So I wanted to see Team Liquid beat it, but then Cloud9 didn't even play the Enchantress mid. They did the Aurelia Karthus strategy. And from what I kind of got is that it felt like the teams were fairly even a lot of the time, and it came from like really clutch plays from Blippo to kind of like keep Team Liquid in the game and keep them ahead for most of the time. Because like the Karthus ulting to get gold randomly strat was really interesting. And to me, it felt like Blabber just wasn't very good at it, or he didn't really know how to play Karthus super well. Definitely think if Malice, anybody follows the Academy scene, was in it, would have been executed at a much higher level. But yeah, I don't know. Cloud9 definitely is onto something with their comp. I think that honestly, I would favor their comp if they knew how to play it better, which was interesting because I didn't really know how it worked going into the game, but then seeing it after and being like, wow, Team Liquid scales really well, but it feels like Cloud9 has so much ability to still be in this game, and it's not through like common methods of like you have someone who just is a hyper-scaling ADC or poke like Team Liquid's comp. So really exciting stuff, but Team Liquid is still very, very good. So they won. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that C9 has a case to be second, probably a pretty strong case. They almost won against the de facto number one team right now. Sure, they have a sub, but like they almost won. They play a bunch of different strategies, which in playoffs especially is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Best of 5, you have all these strategies. Like no one wants to play into that. No one wants to draft into that. It's awful, right? So I think that they're playing well. They've made a lot of like little mistakes, especially, and some of them are like big ones, like get Baron and then just throw it right, and
Right.
then give Soul away, right? And they could
Yeah.
have just won the game, or at least been in a great position afterwards. So like that's the scary part. This team has so much upside. Like they still have language barriers. It looks like they don't always get on the same page immediately. They overextend a bunch. Blabber had like 2 or 3 Karthus ults canceled in a game in a pro
Yeah.
match.
Unfortunate.
The most I haven't seen a Karthus ult canceled since like season 8. Like I
Yeah.
don't remember the last time I've seen a pro Karthus get canceled. So yeah, and despite that, it was super close and it was really interesting. I love it, and just like to touch a little bit on their other game, like yeah, they picked Zillion for the second time, but they're only the second team ever to pick a hero in NA like in mid, and then they also picked Malphite when it made sense. Like everyone, you always hear Alice say like, why are they picking Jace here? I will just pick Malphite and we'll just destroy him, and they just destroyed him. Like Summit didn't even like apparently he hadn't even played Malphite in a long time. They just win. So they're kind of making like it's almost like making a joke of all these other teams who just follow the meta, follow what the Koreans do, and then they, play it 100 times Renekton and it always loses. Like I think Renekton's not bad, but the way NA plays it, it's terrible.
Yeah. I think I absolutely agree with what you said in that it seems like C9, they're going to play, obviously with LS's influence, they're going to play what they think is going to work, not necessarily what everybody else is playing. It seems like they actually put some thought into it. And I do like the fact that they have that wide variety because variety is going to be something, that they can use to their advantage because a team it's harder to prepare for a team if you don't really know what they're going to play. And if they can play each of these strategies at some level of proficiency, then that's definitely going to be something for other teams to be worried about. You mentioned, and we mentioned, what I think, with Fudge playing these enchanters, what I think kind of aligns with that is the fact that Fudge switched to mid lane this year, right? And we were kind of worried about his champion pool. Can he play all these, mid lane champions? He kind of hasn't had to because he's playing these enchanters, right? So it's like if he doesn't have to really learn, these more technical champions that are traditionally in mid lane, he can just play these enchanters, then that kind of hides a little bit of that weakness, right? And, the fact that he can pull out some top lane champions like Irelia, he has experience on that. And so I think that works to their advantage. Now, I don't think this will happen, but I mean, just imagine Fudge gets good at enchanters and they haven't even run a second smite strategy yet. And so maybe Fudge goes back to top lane with some, smite, play an enchanter, and, let's see what Summit can do, in the mid lane if he's really mechanical. It's maybe swap him up while he's still young, get him a feel for it. I just think there's a lot of upside and it's exciting because that wouldn't be out of the norm for what C9's culture seems to be right now, which is, hey, we'll try anything because, we're not afraid to try. And I think that's what makes them exciting, at least to me. So I'm really hyped with them.
You do also have to worry, like, what if they nerf enchanters really hard and they do go back to traditional mages and Fudge can't play them super well? Like, that's what worries me when we were talking all the way back in Lock-In. It seems like he can play Corki and Victor. Yes. Can he play Orianna? It was alright when he played it. Can he play Azir, Syndra? We have never actually seen them. So, for now it's great, I think, that he can play these enchanters, but he's gonna get like outscaled by the mid laners that know how to play all the mages. You know what I mean?
Right. So. Yeah, I mean, and that's always gonna. I mean, that's with anything though, right? Like teams, what suits the meta? What team is best suited for the meta at that moment? Even when you get to Worlds, a team that was good all year could suck because they haven't adjusted to the current meta, and so
we want international success, right? So maybe all-inning on this like enchanter stuff and the smite top stuff is just a waste of time. You don't see Team Liquid doing it, so I don't know.
Let me counter that though with this: what if they're adapting to the meta as it is right now, and that's why it's so exciting? And that kind of has to do with what LS is, right? Like he's not playing what the traditional thing is. He feels that the meta is enchanters right now, right? We've said it. Enchanters are broken. Ellis is going to be like, let's play what's broken. And maybe he's good at adapting. And when the strategy changes, they're quicker to change than other teams as well.
Okay, so the
That's my
argument
other
is
rebuttal.
no, the argument is like they're getting better at learning how to adapt,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's obviously an upside to it. The downside is doesn't matter how well you can adapt. If Azir's meta and you suck at his mechanics and laning, doesn't matter how much you
I
can
will
adapt.
give you that. I will give you that.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
also add, like, it's really concerning that Aurelia is like not even a mid lane character. Like it is, but it's also top lane. Fudge was like his first pop up in LCS was on Aurelia.
Yeah.
Like, last year, right? He played a really uninspiring Aurelia game. In a game where he was set up to succeed, right? There were times he could flash ult, and granted, Ayla like canceled one of his like abilities to flash ult and just end the game at Baron with a really good hook.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
man, he just wasn't inspired on a top lane character that he's known for. So I'm
Too much
concerned.
Zillion, man.
A little
Too much
bit.
Zillion.
Too much Zillion.
His hands are dying. Too much Soraka, dude.
That's what happened. That's what happened to Bjergsen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
dying.
we talked about that Karthus, and Blabber did get his ults canceled. I will say though, that was some pretty awesome play by Bwipo, kind of getting in the right spots, and I definitely think, it was close, and I think Bwipo was the one that made the game-saving plays. He was engaging from angles that there was no vision. They didn't see it coming, and and like you said, interrupting that Karthus ult right in the middle of that fight, to block all that damage was clutch. So once again, Bwipo is carrying, and let's talk just a little bit about Team Liquid, and only for the fact that they're the best. I think that to me, they're clearly the best. And I don't know, is there really much to say because they are so good. And that's the reason why, I'm like, Bwipo is amazing. Santorin, I just was doing a brief look at Oracle's elixirs of junglers. He's performing near the top of the list of junglers. Bjergsen's a big consistent. Han Sama's amazing. And Isla, like we've said, has been, proven his worth. So do you guys have any thoughts on Team Liquid before we move on?
The only thing I really have to say is, and Kevin and I were talking about this when we were watching the game. We think the best two players in the league right now are Bwipo and Hansama. And the fact that we're talking about two TL players and neither of them are Bjergsen is pretty telling. On top of that, I would argue, obviously Santorin has his very good games, and so does Bjergsen. But I would also put Isla on there because, I mean, the only support I would say is comparable would either be Huhi or Vulcan. And I mean, that's a pretty high, it's pretty hard to get to that level, especially as a rookie.
Yep. Yeah, I think I think Bwipo is probably the best player in the league. I mean, sure, Hansama, you can put him up there. It's like, you're scraping by little bits here. Bwipo is too good. I think he's probably. I was thinking about it, and honestly, I heard the JLXP and Jat. He released it yesterday, and he was saying that Bwipo is probably MVP of this year. And I was thinking that after I watched the TLC9 game. I don't know if there's ever been a top laner that's actually come in and been better than him, right? If you think about it, it's been Someday, right? But Someday was on a fourth place team, right? He did get second place one split. After that, he was fourth and fifth every year. Hard to shine. Never really clutched out late games for his teams. Bwipo was actually single-handedly clutched out games for his team so far. So the guy's really crazy.
Several times too.
Several times. And you think about how good this guy is, right? He was up there with Wonder. There were two top laners in all of Europe for years. It was him and Wonder. And they're both doing pretty well. So it's kind of exciting to have one of them over here. Yeah, that guy's crazy. Bwipo's nuts.
I think for TL's case, the fact that they don't have core with the shot calling and everything that it comes with, right? All the intangibles he brings to a team, that is crazy. I will temper expectations a bit. I think Liquid has been a little shaky at times. They win because their carriers are just so good, right? And that just doesn't cut it internationally, right? So we need core to come in and see what does it look like with core. That being said, the difference between Bwipo and I was gonna say Astralis, that too, but Bwipo and Alfari is night and day. I think Alfari's laning, at times is better, but Bwipo you can tell he's a grinder. Like you can tell he knows like cheese matchups in and out. He knows like level 2, I'm all inning with my Pantheon versus your garbage, right? And like
Pantheon.
right,
Oh,
like
God.
and like he didn't even play it optimally, but he got the solo kills, right? He made
Yeah.
Fake Out look like a chump, man. I'm sorry. And so like think about it like with all that in mind, like he is willing to die for the team. He's willing to peel for the team. Like you saw in those last fights when he was like low health on Gragas, he was still peeling like a god.
Yep.
And like getting flash engages. Like I'm sorry, Alfari got a few of those on Nara and stuff, but like he was nowhere near that after laning phase, right? So it's a different look for Liquid, and they think they got the steal of the season. Like I don't think Whipple comes over if they don't have that drama in Fnatic. I'm not gonna get into that, but like it's just lucky for us, right? As long as it doesn't spring up again.
That's
Yeah.
so nuts. He's
And-
crazy.
I can't
To
believe
think
it.
that he switched from jungle too. Like
Yeah.
that's
I
what's
think it
even
made him a
crazy.
better player. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
We saw him play top. He's not new, guys. Like if you don't watch EU, you might not know, but he's been
Yeah, he's
around
been
for
around.
a long time.
Yeah.
Well, relatively, right? And he was always a top level top line. He's made world finals. It's just
Yeah, he made World Finals in his rookie year, 2018. Yeah.
now he just looks
Crazy.
like more well rounded. Like he can play more characters. He's always been able to like swap between top and bot lane before for that meta when we had like Vladimir and stuff in season 8.
Yeah.
Bot
He
lane.
dukeyed on Licorice.
Yeah.
That was unfortunate.
And he's
Wasn't
back
even
to do it
close.
again. I mean, unlucky, man. I think he's the best. I think that Hansama is one of the best AD. He's the best AD carry, which is great. But like, it's hard for him to show off anymore because his teammates are so good.
Yeah.
Right? You will look good as an AD carry if your teammates like are that good at protecting you and giving you space. But he doesn't make mistakes. Like he makes like the least mistakes of any AD carry in the league.
Dude, he
right
got
now.
solo killed by BioDaddy, or duo killed, or whatever, by BioDaddy.
He did.
That's true.
So, he's not that good. Not good,
Yeah.
better than the BioDaddy.
He also styled on Zerker in some of those fights. I'm just saying. But you're right. He did.
Solo killed by Bio. Yeah, Dignitas. I don't know. Sorry, they seemed cool, too.
I mean, I will say Biofrost, it makes me happy to see him playing really well in that bot lane with Neo, surprising me. But real quickly, like I want to continue that Bwipo hype train because I'm also with it. And, I think what I like about Bwipo and what I've known about Bwipo even before he came here is that no matter what, he is a League of Legends nerd. And I mean that in the most positive way where this guy is, even when he's streaming and playing the game, he's like talking about, oh, this would have been more optimal if I did this. And, oh, no, I shouldn't have done. And even when he like dies or makes a bad play, he's constantly analyzing what he just did. If that was the most efficient play, did he do that right? And what he should have done different. And that's what makes me really excited about him and in this environment, because I do think Team Liquid is full of these players. Example with Bjergsen and Core JJ, and I've said this before, and I think that's why he fits so well here, because he can take that same type of personality he has, and he's with a group of them. He's like found his habitat, and I think that's what's gonna enable him to really thrive and shine and see these things and try things and not be totally afraid of it. Because hey, you know what? If not, Hansama's a good backup. Bjergsen's a good backup.
Like together strong.
Yeah, he's
Bjergsen
got.
being your second string backup is hilarious.
Yeah,
dude.
I mean, that's just really nice and convenient to have. So that is why I am still hype on Team Liquid, and we still got Core JJ hopefully coming back. But when are teams gonna just learn to ban Thresh? Like the man is insane with that champion, and he did. There was their second game. I forget who they played, but they banned Thresh, and he got Leona. And didn't do so hot, but they still won. But he definitely, I don't know why teams seem to give that over. But anyways, the reason I talked about Team Liquid is because they were always kind of number one in our rankings. And number two was always a toss-up. That's why I mentioned C9, because I think most of us had C9 somewhere around fourth. I think second and third was always up for debate between EG and 100 Thieves. And that leads me to my second topic, which is EG, Evil Geniuses, who... not too long ago, that were undefeated in the lock-in, and everybody's like, this team is going to run over the spring split. And ever since they got swept in the finals, they haven't looked great. They're, in fact, tied for second, which is like 2-2. But, they have not played well. They've lost to all the teams that are in the top upper teams, and they've won against the teams that they should beat. But even their game, who did they play? Dignitas, like I was talking about, that didn't look so hot, and they resorted to the Karma Smite strategy there. So I want to kind of just revisit your guys' thoughts on EG at this point in time, because seeing 4 games so far, seeing what you've seen, what are you guys thinking? Like, do you think they still are in the conversation for second, or are they more like a 4th place team now?
I would say they're probably looking more at a 4th place to me. Because looking back, what I feel is happening with EG is they came in hot because they came in with a playstyle and players that were pretty hard to prepare for because it hadn't been seen before, right? You have a bunch of players who've never played together before, if I'm correct, and you have this rookie who no one's seen before. Obviously, he was in amateur for not very long, of course, since he came from Fortnite, I believe. So it's really hard to prepare for this guy, and then you have a jungler who comes from Europe, so you can't really prepare for that because it's a whole different play style. And eventually, someone finds them out or figures them out, and then everyone figures them out.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the Spiegelforo that Mitchell has. Oh,
We
Alistair's got one
have
too.
Poro
Okay, I gotta
team.
get, for you guys listening, we're busting out the Poros, and
We
I
have
don't have one,
Poros. I have a
so
Poro.
I feel
I
left
got
out. I'm gonna have to get me
I got him
one
for
now.
Christmas. He's adorable.
Amazing.
I got mine for
Yeah.
Christmas too.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Dignitas, I mean not Dignitas. Evil Geniuses I still think are pretty good. Hard to say where they'll land. I think for spring, anything's up for grabs, right? Like, do I think they're like gonna be second? Probably not. Do I think they? I think they still could be though. Like, I'm
Okay.
not gonna take them out of the running for that. Like 2, 3, 4, still really all mixed in my head. I do favor C9 though, if I'm being honest. Like, it's hard not to. Um, I think when you look at the 100 Thieves game, and it kind of looked like a pretty bad loss, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I've always known Impact as he's a really good player and he's really good at a lot of different matchups, right? But when there's a very specific matchup when it's like carry versus carry against like an actual carry player,
Mm-hmm.
Impact tends to lose those, right? And he got bodied pretty hard by Somedays Tryndamere. It was not even close in that matchup, and that was pretty unfortunate because it really did feel like it swung so much of the game. Just Someday being unstoppable on the Tryndamere.
Mm-hmm.
This build that has been catching on is just Hullbreaker on practically everybody. Hullbreaker Scion was the first one. We're seeing Hullbreaker Tryndamere, Hullbreaker Graves, Hullbreaker whatever you want as long as the split pushes top. Like you can do it on Jax, Fiora, and they are unkillable monsters. So I don't know. I think I think that maybe EG's been slumping and 100 Thieves is maybe peaking, but that's kind of how I felt. It was just like a weird just matchup for Impact, and it just skewed the whole game. And
Mm.
also the set Senna, we finally saw
Yeah.
Fasting Senna come back,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really big deal because it should have been played way more. I think it's super broken, so only 100 Thieves played it though. So yeah.
If Zen was in the league, they would probably play it too, but he's
Yep.
not.
Yep.
I would say that I have him pegged as third. I don't think I ever had him pegged as a first place, like long term. I think most of us thought, yeah, they're going to be first in lock in, but they'll probably not get much further than that. And then, we saw the Liquid game. I think we predicted Liquid anyways, but it was kind of
Yep.
an outside chance. In my mind, I think that they are worse than 100 Thieves right now. They're worse than C9. And the reason I haven't pegged higher is because they have so much more room to grow. Like, Inspire's not playing that well right now, but
No,
like
he's
he
not.
is an MVP jungler, and I saw some pretty crazy stuff for him, except in playoffs last year. So like, I think he could play way better, and that team looks so scary if the jungler plays
Yeah.
well because Jojo Pyon's style, right, gets amplified by that. And the Jojo Pion has a whole split to grow. It doesn't even really matter as a split, but like he can grow, and I think Impact is just better than Someday. Like regardless of the fact that they had a bad game, then I still think it's better. So if anything, their bot lane's slightly weaker, but like not by a lot because Vulcan is, in my opinion, better than Huhi. So I think this team has got at least third in the tank. It's just that C9's probably better in a lot of facets in terms of their ability to grow and be adaptable. And then Liquid still isn't even full. They don't have their MVP level support. Like everyone wants to play with him. He's the franchise player, right? Like he's like the Bjergsen of Liquid right now. People want to come, and I don't hear any like imports or anything like Koreans say like Core JJ is bad or something. They always have good things to say about him. I mean, to be fair, he's a Korean world champ, and he's kind of really good. So
yeah,
maybe
that'll definitely get you some street cred there. But
I mean, Impact is like the granddad.
Oh,
like
yeah,
they're
that's
like, when
true.
I
You're
started
right.
playing the game, man, you were already winning.
He gets the respect buff, the real elder buff. Yeah,
because the elder bud's not winning games these days. So
that's right.
Real elder buff.
Oh man,
I like that.
yeah. You know what?
That's a good dad joke.
What I've looked, I know. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. But you know, I look at EG and JoJo again. Like I do think he's kind of at a slump. Like I haven't seen him performing that well. He's still laning okay. Like his laning stats are decent, but he's still dying a lot. He has a lower kill participation and damage than a lot of the other mid laners out there. So for me, that's kind of been a thing. But maybe it's also because Inspired hasn't been playing well either. You mentioned it, Kevin. I looked at some of his stats. You know, he's below halfway in kill participation, gold at 10, CS at 10. He has the lowest DPM and damage share percentage of all the junglers, which is not good when you're like it's supposed to be an MVP level jungler. So maybe that, you know, is tied together with JoJo's performance. But what I also don't like is one, Danny's an amazing ADC player. I mean, he's at the top of the list for almost every ADC stat, but also Vulcan needs to be unleashed. This guy, they keep putting him on Tahm Kench, and I know Tahm Kench is good or whatever, but for me, he's not, to me, a playmaker, right? He's more of a protect your ADC.
I feel like he's a pretty big playmaker.
Yeah,
some of his
but I don't.
craziest plays are like Alistair, Nautilus, Leona, stuff like that. You know.
Well, I mean, I think if you put him on something more like a Thresh or a Leona or something that is, you know, because maybe Tahm Kench is a little more multi-dimensional in the fact that he kind of can do both or multiple things, but I'd like to see him more on something that has a kit that's specifically designed for one thing, and that's lock people down. I feel like he just hasn't been making the kinds of plays that he can make, and you know it doesn't look like the 3 games that he's played on Tahm Kench is really enabling him to do that for whatever reason. So that's what I want to see, because I think this bot lane is too good to just kind of resort to that. That's just my personal thoughts on Tahm Kench. And I mean, if you guys want to talk about Tahm Kench as a whole, I just don't like seeing him, especially when
I don't like him either.
They have good supports. Like if it's Core JJ or I don't want to see them on Tahm Kench. It's kind of like with Bjergsen. He can play Zillion. He's good at Zillion, but I kind of want to see him on something else. In that respect, I don't want to see Vulcan on Tahm Kench. So maybe some of those things can be adjusted and we'll see better stuff. But I am kind of wondering about, you know, EG at the moment. So
the Kench needs to be benched. The champ, in my opinion, his laning phase is just abysmal. I don't think he's very good support. I don't even think he's very good with Senna, if you want to be completely honest. I feel like if you're going to fasting Senna, you'd be better off playing Cho'Gath or Sion.
Yeah.
Or Wukong.
I think he's a better top laner. He has a lot of unlosable matchups as Tahm Kench in the top lane. That's from my experience. I don't know. He kind of needs gold now, honestly. And once he gets some gold, he just runs people over. But in support, it just feels like he's like very squishy. His W super predictable, right? Honestly, when you play top lane Tahm Kench, you don't even land your W. You just kind of get close to people and you run at them. So
that's true.
You just explode if you're a support Tahm Kench, because it's so hard to land. So, yeah, I don't think he's very good in bot lane. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you have any thoughts on Tahm Kench, Kevin?
I think he's all right. I think Tahm Kench has his place. It's just that it's going to look bad in losing games. Like
I agree. I just think most of the time. I just don't think.
I think you keep him in the back pocket and don't pick him every game. You know.
I think he's good into Leona, but other than that, I think he just gets smacked by everyone.
Yeah.
Leona and maybe Nautilus. But
I mean, he's actually pretty good at getting us like dual lane kills if you play it correctly. It's just he gets poked out for a lot of the lanes. So like
exactly, and that's the issue,
problem,
especially in the meta we're in right now.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, with Senna, he's okay, but otherwise, and even with you have to have like an idea, right? Like have a like if you have like a Corki you want to protect too, like okay, yeah, I could see what you're trying to do with it. I think he's fine. I just think that they're picking him too much. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean that's what Vulcan
Exactly.
has played him in like 3 of their 4 games, I believe. So it hasn't. I just don't want to see it all the time, and hopefully they'll change things up.
Such a goofy champion.
And
I can't
it's
believe
really boring. Like it's boring. Come on.
Yeah, it is boring.
I want to see something,
He's
more
so
exciting.
dumb.
Yeah, he's so dumb. That's what it is. Come on, let's
a
just
dumb
make it more
catfish.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that's the pretty much the top 4 that we talked about. 100 Thieves. They honestly could very well be 4-0. They threw one to Immortals, but I still think they're looking strong. I would call that maybe a fluke game. I don't think Immortals is actually good. I don't know how they won that game, but in my opinion, I think 100 Thieves is still top 2 right now. And is there any thoughts you want to throw their way as far as good, bad? I think I'm thinking pretty high of them right now. I think 100 Thieves and Team Liquid clear cut above the rest in my book.
For me, the only thing that holds 100 Thieves down, or will hold 100 Thieves down, is the fact that, and we've seen it already, they fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure they're consistent enough to necessarily win or be second. There is a chance maybe they change everyone's mind, they win the whole thing like they did last year in summer. But I personally, at the moment, would have them fluctuating between 3rd and 4th with EG.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with this fluctuation, but notably, it's felt like for quite a while, even last year with this team, that they would fluctuate badly against worse teams. They're more likely to play to their opponent's level, because I feel like whenever we're like, well, they just completely crap the bed against Dignitas. Let's see them play this other team who's really good now, and then they just win. They destroy
Yeah.
them,
Mm-hmm.
and then they randomly lose to Immortals, and then they beat all the other top tier teams,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's kind of like maybe lack of preparation, maybe lack of waking up, because it also feels like it's like their players like play significantly worse
Yes.
on those days where they lose. It's not like sure they kind of turn their brains off with macro. They just go through the motions, do basic stuff, don't really think too much, get caught out randomly, right? But then you see people like specifically Abadage, Huhi, Someday, even closer, just making some really strange decisions and plays. So I mean, I don't know how you fix that. Just don't do that, I guess.
Yeah.
Stop. But yeah, they just gotta turn their brains on, and I think they can have a good chance. I think if they play at their best, they could definitely give Team Liquid a run for their money.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if Team Liquid plays with their best, if both of the teams are playing the best, they're going to be second at highest,
Yep.
right? So yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll give them respect. A lot of NA teams, when they do well, or no, even when they don't do well, actually mostly when they don't do well, like they lose at Worlds, right? They change up players, and they kept most of the roster. I mean, technically Something has a sub, but he's played most of the games, right? So I
Yeah.
still count him as a starter, and I give him that respect because like it's hard as a GM to be like, oh, we still didn't make quarters, let's just run the same comp again, or the same team again. So I give him respect for that. I think that Someday actually is looking a little better overall. Like his body of work so far has been more impressive. I mean, okay, they did get knocked out in lock-in, but that's not too big of a deal, right?
Boopa would have carried that. Just saying. By himself.
He would have, right? But yeah, so like I give him respect for that, and that does mean a lot. Like there's a reason why we're not really complaining about FBI Hugi, right? Like they keep that duo together. I mean, it was a Golden Guardians too. But they keep that duo together. They get more and more experience, and like that compounds, right? It doesn't mean that you have an infinite trajectory. However, like it means that in more and more scenarios, you're more reliable in that sense. That being said, it is weird that they're inconsistent with all that going on, right? They're like the team with the most tenure together. Like not even just the core, like literally those 5 people, right?
Yep.
And
their
4
coach.
of them were together too, and the coach. So like, yeah, I'm a little concerned about them. I think it's a good thing that they're here because we're missing TSM from the top 4, like just the perennial top 4. So
yeah.
Sorry, we're missing. We need them in the top 4. We need 100 Thieves in the top 4 so that we have a team that can do damage at Worlds. Like as an org, they've actually like been very close to beating some very good teams or beating some very good teams. So
Yeah.
they just haven't made it out, right? It's like Liquid. They're like 1 game away from making it out, or Cody's son flashes forward and loses.
Didn't have to do
and
it.
ults the guy into his team and loses worlds.
Guys, if
Sick
you
insect.
haven't done so already, YouTube search Cody Sun Worlds Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
This is
then
a
I think
sick
Fnatic
insect.
was the other team or something.
Yeah,
Or
It was
Fnatic.
Fnatic, yeah.
the
And then
They
worst
were gonna upset
heartbreaking
Fnatic
game.
and make it out of groups.
They were gonna upset Fnatic, and then Fnatic won off of like almost dying at the Mortals Nexus. They were like,
Cody's son
they
was
barely killed it.
Danny, Johnson, Jojo Pyun combined in terms of like our next NA hope.
Yeah.
80 carries, or Jojo Pyun's not 80 carry, but like NA hope, right?
Yeah.
And then his career basically ended from there. It's really
Dude,
sad.
yeah, that was
Uh,
a bummer.
I believe he's playing. I believe he's playing in the LFL right now, or
Cool, man.
somewhere around there.
He got recruited.
With Reckless.
He got recruited to one of the ERLs. I don't know if it was LFL, but I think he got recruited to a European league
Yeah.
because no NA team would take
Does
him.
anybody
No.
does anybody here think that that's good for their career? Because I personally am like, all right, farewell, Reckless.
Reckless thinks so.
Well, what I was gonna say is that at least he's still making money because there are some
Yeah,
people
it's
who
true.
are not working. You know, so you got a job. It's like I'm an actor. You might never see me. I'm in like the B tier commercials, but I'm making a living. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
that's true. I mean, good
it's
for him. He's
alright.
making
So-
a living, but it's
But
kind of like
from
yeah.
world stage to where he is now. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I totally see what you're saying. Yes.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, you made a good segue into TSM because we're going to do a 180. You know, we're talking about the top of the list here, and now we're going to go right down to the bottom because the two winless
TSM
teams,
forever.
TSM and CLG.
TSM win. Hashtag TSM win.
Look, we
Every
expect,
game.
or I expected, I think most of us expected CLG to be pretty bad. I mean, I had them like 10th still.
Yeah, pretty bad.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if any of us thought TSM was going to be this bad. It's only week 2, but they are, woof, that big fat bagel. They got 0 wins.
I think
what
for
is it?
us and for the dive, we all had them average around 5th or 6th place.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
and
I
I
think I
thought
had them
that's
6th or 7th. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
what I thought it would be. And look, it's still
look
a long
terrible.
split to go, but
Yeah.
0-4. What are your thoughts on what the heck is happening right now?
Honestly, I don't have that many thoughts on it, and most of the games just haven't been memorable. I mean, obviously there was just the absolute fiesta of a game against
Banger.
Golden Guardians. I wouldn't
Absolute
call it
banger.
That. I wouldn't
Legendary.
call it
North
But-
American pride.
that.
Game of the week.
I'm
Yes.
Canadian.
Still North America, buddy.
It's still North America. You can't escape that, buddy.
Pride. I'm Canadian. Sorry, bro. The other, I mean, I think the most worrying part about TSM to me is the fact that if you look at the teams they've played against, they really, aside from EG, they've lost to the bottom.
Yep.
They lost to Golden Guardians, they lost to FlyQuest, and they lost to Dig. Now, to be fair, Dig and FlyQuest are both 3-1. Take that as you will. They also haven't played the hardest competition, but
Yeah.
it's showing they're around a middling team. TSM has lost to everyone. They're clearly a bottom of the bottom team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, and Dig are all teams that I think most people had under the top 5. And the fact that TSM's lost every single one of them is pretty telling.
Yeah. They're a bad team. I have a bold prediction. They're gonna randomly like beat Team Liquid or something. They're still gonna end the split at like 9th place, but they're gonna randomly beat some top team. Cause that's how TSM rolls, guys.
Yeah.
They always make you feel weird. They always do something unexpected. That the TSM is here to stay, guys, and this is gonna be fun. I'm excited to see what they bring. Honestly, their team is so bad but so chaotic, and some of them have such like small brilliance of amazingness. Like Tactical, he's been looking terrible all year long. He kind of looked good against Golden Guardians for like a little bit, and then he killed himself. And I was like, oh man, this is great. I love this.
The best way to think about Tactical, in my opinion, is just the tragically hip.
Yes.
Like, he's so high, but so low. There's just polar opposites in those two words.
He just has the highest highs, all the way back from the crazy Callisto play to just like, I don't know, kind of like flashing in and dying. Yeah, Malphite. It's great. Yeah, honestly, I love it. TSM is a meme, and I'm sorry to all you TSM fans, but I've been waiting this for years. This is
This is why we
amazing.
need relegation.
This is the best. TSM is
CLG.
losing all their players, right?
Mhm.
And Reginald is getting memed for being abusive. I don't know. It's just kind of like it just feels like a big meme.
Yeah.
That our most popular team is in this situation right now. It's both tragic and amazing at the same time. So we'll
It's
see what it does
tragic
for
and
the.
hip.
Yeah, we'll see what it does for the just the culture of the region though, because there's a lot of TSM fans and they are not happy right
Yep.
now. I guarantee it. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like CLG's coach at the beginning of this one must have like wished on a monkey's paws, like let us be competitive with TSM this season. That's all I asked for, and here we are. I mean, for TSM, there's a lot that we could say about them, but like it's crazy to me. Like it's been a long time that I've seen a team like it's usually like Golden Guardians or whatever, or old like CLG splits ago, where you're just like they have skill on this team. They just have no idea what they're doing together. Like you'll see like Shenny randomly get a really good engage, and then everyone just sits there and watches. And I'm like, what
Mhm.
the heck is that? Or Kaido will like int his ass off, and then he'll get in and get like a 3-man flash sphere perfectly and like win them the fight. And I'm just like, okay, so do that like more than once a game, please.
Mhm.
And then tactical, like I could go down the list, right? There's a lot of individual skill there, but first of all, I never want to see Huni on a smite top again in my life. Like
I
that
don't
Oh
want
was
to see Rooney.
god,
that
dude,
was
he's so bad at Lulu.
like that
How do you
guy.
be bad at Lulu?
I unironically, one of us could probably have got on stage and played that like
I could have played it better.
about
It's
Yeah.
so good.
maybe better, about as well, like good enough.
Oh my
So,
god,
like
he's
it was
so
awful,
bad.
man. Like it was actually he went down bot pre-6 and they died. I don't know how that's even possible. They saw the jungler coming through a ward and they're like, yeah, this is the play. This is it. So with all that being said, TSM probably is going to lose a lot more until they get their stuff together. Maybe Parth was the best coach in NA all this time. The second he leaves, they look like absolute garbage. So I don't know. But I also think that like in the off chance they get their stuff together, they would actually still be like top 7, probably top 6. Like there's just too much like the Spica's on this team. Like he's really good, and like I just cannot see. Well, no, I can see. I just cannot see them going like 0-18. They probably will win. Like
No.
averaged out, they'll probably win like 4 games.
No way Speak is going 0-18 because he's gonna get bought like partway through or something. He's gonna get stolen from another team. He's like, get me out of here.
Yeah, honestly, like the interesting thing is like their only valuable assets like Spica, and then to some extent Huni, because he's not an import, right? So like
But who cares?
Is he,
Who
though?
needs
Is he
tactical?
valuable?
Just
I
go away.
I don't know.
Oh,
I think
man.
Huni could still be good. He just hasn't been good in a while. So I'm
I
just like
don't think that dude
I
cares
don't
anymore.
think, I don't think
just,
Huni can be good.
He
Yeah.
just doesn't care, man. And
Yeah.
to throw in the I know there is a language barrier, but Spica does speak some Mandarin, and so he can help translate. But
the
I'm
language
still
barrier is not a problem, man. Come on now. There's
yeah, but you
like
can
if
tell.
you watch how they're playing. There's no way it's the language is the problem.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the language. I think it's just communication structure in general.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Because
I think what I was
realistically,
thinking
the
of.
whole like, oh yeah, I'm making a big play and no one helped me. That's a communication thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And it could
and
be language, but I don't think it is because they've been. Well, I've seen all the posts that oh yes, it's Spica is really big here because he speaks the languages and translates for everyone. So
yeah, and I did see some Twitter posts. Was it Twitter or Reddit talking about how like sometimes it's easier to communicate when there is a quote unquote language barrier because you could just say top need push or something like that, and that's more effective
yeah.
than saying hey I need to push my wave because I need to reset and buy this. Like it's more efficient to just use the keywords like top need reset help push or something like that, right? Like
Yeah,
it's more
yeah.
efficient. So I don't think like you said I didn't mean language barrier, but I more so meant like the way they are able to communicate, and maybe language plays a factor, maybe it doesn't, but we don't really know. Like Spica is kind of like would be the middle person to kind of bridge that gap if there was one. But
Speaker's also only played with Bjergsen
Yeah.
as mid laner, right? Like we don't know how good this guy is without Bjergsen. Or, like, I mean, he had PoE, right? But like he's played with only seasoned veterans, and now he has a rookie mid, a rookie support, and honestly not that experienced of an ADC. Even though Tactical should be fairly veteran, right? Tactical also only played with a crap ton of veterans with Core GJ, right?
Yeah.
You're throwing these two guys who have been here for a long time, but never actually led anything. They've always been the young guys. Now they're the old guys all of a sudden. There's going to be some transition period. And I think, like, to just completely dispel all the communications, I think they just suck. Like, they just have bad
That could be it
mechanics.
too.
So, um, yeah, it's communication, whatever, but, like, sometimes they
Well, I
just, like,
mean,
do
I
monkey
I
stuff.
think you're right. Like as far as like, I mean, I have seen Kaido have some nice plays, but like you said, the consistency's not there. Same with
Yeah.
Shen Yi. But look, the upside is that this is supposed to be the Zoomer team, right? They're super young, except for Hooney, but most of them are super young.
He's
I
still
mean, if
25. He's not even that old.
yeah, but I mean, like as far as
Oh my
like
god, I'm older than him.
experience in the league is what I'm referring to. Like we got a bunch of
You're right.
Zoomers as far as experience in the league. So maybe there's a lot of upside. But my biggest wonder and curiosity is like if they go another 2 weeks winless, does Reggie get in there and like say, all right, we're making something drastic happen here?
Yeah.
Or
We're going for full budget year. Speaker, you're off the roster. We got to sell you so we can sell T-shirts.
because you
Yeah.
said, the fan base,
Please get him out of
that
there.
has been one of TSM's biggest assets, right? They have been the most popular team. I myself have even jumped ship because I realized, I was more of a Bjergsen fan. And honestly, the old guard of TSM is officially done. Like,
Yep.
there is nobody there anymore that, like, I even, was a fan of in the first place. So, all of that to say is that I think TSM does not look good, like all you guys said. And I'm wondering where that line is going to be when or if something happens. Because I think that is not good for the fan base if you just keep losing and you keep sucking.
I mean, you got to keep in mind, right? That FTX deal was only last year, like
Yeah.
a couple splits ago, and they already can't brand themselves as TSM FTX in the league, right? So you're already like losing some value there. If you're like, well, theoretically, your flagship game is just like doing like awfully. Valorant, you're not doing well in. I think you're doing good in like Apex or Rainbow Six, but like no one watches Rainbow Six. People do watch Apex, so like that's fine and all, but they have a huge. I saw a video on my suggested list. It was like TSM FTX facility, the most expensive one in NA. I'm like, I don't know what's paying for that because like across the board, they only have one or two esports they're like competitive in, and then maybe Smash Melee or something.
Yeah.
And,
Melee.
Ultimate,
Yeah.
Melee and
Yeah,
Ultimate with Leffen and Tweak. So like, yeah, I mean that's great, but those guys are not making big money. Like those are grassroots esports. They're like cool that you have those names, but they're not making you the big bucks. TSM basically has their website, which is still worth a lot. They're like, I think it's like they also own Blitz or something. But other than that, it's not good. We've one last thing I wanted to tell viewers, like if you didn't know, like language barriers sure it could be a problem, but a lot of the best teams in the world have had language barriers. Like IG, the Shy didn't speak like basically any like usable Chinese sentences, even when they won, and he had been there for years, right? And like there are the more infamous example is season 4, if you were around for that, or season 4 when Royal made it to the finals, and like they were just pinging. Like Insect didn't know Chinese. I forgot who the other Korean was, but like it was a Zero. Yeah, the support for Uzi. I think he knew a little bit, but like they were just pinging to get their way to World Finals and take a game off SKT. Like I'm sure you would be better if you have perfect English, but like it's not as big of a deal as like the coaching and the communication structure, right?
And just being a good player. That's pretty good too. That's very helpful.
I mean, you talking about the Shy. I mean, yeah, he could probably he could probably win some stuff. He doesn't need to talk or say anything. Well, look, hey, is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about and the other teams before we move on to some of the meta discussion? You got Dignitas. I think they've kind of been taken down now that J4 has kind of been banned away from them. I still think
J4. Yeah.
I still think they look okay. I'm not totally giving up on them, but I definitely think upper part of the lower teams. I think that's right about where they are. But is there anything else? Golden Guardians did go 2-0. They didn't have the best competition, but they were the only other 2-0 team.
FlyQuest lost their undefeated. They were first for a while,
That's right.
first, but
they have also been playing crappy teams until Team Liquid, where they lost.
They got kind of smacked.
Yeah, kind of smacked. I think the toss. I think I said this all the way back in Locked In. You ban J4, they look very different. I think finally people are actually catching on to that and being like, it's not this team, it's more the pick, and the team is really good at using it, but they look differently off of it. I think just common with Golden Guardians. God, they're so bad. Yeah, they went too low this weekend. They're so terrible, though. I'm sorry. Um, I don't. I mean, they're always trying to fight and do stuff, which is cool. It's just their execution is so terrible.
Yeah.
So I mean, CLG sucks. I don't know what happened to Contracts. He was playing so well last
He
year on
is
EG,
so bad
and
right
now
now.
he's really bad. He is always in the enemy jungle. It's not like, ooh, Contracts is in the enemy jungle. He's getting a counter jungle. He's like, dude, he's just in there for no reason. He's got his own camps. No
Oh,
one's
shoot.
there with him. He's just in the enemy jungle, hanging out, ready to die. He's got to stop that. So
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like the bottom of the league, their skill is like gotten lower than our usual bottom of the league. Is that just me, or is it the
Really?
same?
I think that would be contrary. I think that would be contrary to at least what, analysts on the dive are saying, because a lot of people are saying this is our best. One of our, even our lower teams are somewhat good.
Oh, God.
I think I tend to agree with most of it, barring CLG. And yeah, I think barring just CLG or even maybe Immortals too. I think
Okay,
Immortals has a pretty
I
bad
will
roster.
say it feels like the bottom teams, they make more decisions. They don't sit there and just bleed out and die. But I
Okay.
don't think those decisions are better or
Yeah.
good or anything like that.
So
They're
you're
definitely more
saying-
proactive.
So you're saying
Like,
instead of just dying, they're like flailing while dying. Is what
they're
I got you,
proactively
yeah.
dying.
Yeah, and but that is better overall as a team, right? Because like again, if they're bad, right? But at least they're trying something, and sometimes they flip heads. Like Immortals beating 100 Thieves would not happen if they played the traditional lower ranked team style, right?
It's true. They go for the flips more instead of just sitting there and getting destroyed in lane and then losing in 15
Well,
minutes.
this is why
They do some stuff.
and this is why I would like to see more Smite top, Enchanter stuff from these lower teams, because it's like you ain't gonna win anyways. Like
True.
you might as
Hail
well make it
Mary.
exciting for us, or if and well, excuse me for stuttering, but like if anything, it gives the upper teams some practice, right? Because what if they start taking some games? Then upper teams are gonna have to take notice. It forces them to kind of learn how to counter that, but. It is more entertaining, at least I will say. These
It is more entertaining.
bottom
yeah.
teams. So there you go. There it is. All right. Let's talk about some meta picks, right? Because that's always fun to talk about. This past week 2, Jinx, Karma, Xin, Gwen, and Zeri were the 5 champions that had 100% presence. Karma with the obvious ability to be flexed top and support. Xin, as always, Gwen still a great champion, and Zeri. But we also saw Ari. Ari had I believe an 80% presence or 70% presence. She got through one game but lost. I forget who played. I think it was Blue who played it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you guys have any thoughts on what we saw in the meta? Any surprises? We saw that Karthus, not really meta, but anything that caught your guys' eye?
Honestly, for me, not really. At least off the top of my head, I guess the Karthus, that was kind of the craziest thing to me. I mean, Ari, I fully expected to see. Zeri high priority, I can understand it.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of standard to me.
I'm sort of switching my opinions that I had from last week. So last week I didn't think Zeri was very good, and I thought Ari was going to be very good. This week I'm kind of flipping. I think Zeri is actually pretty good. I'm not going to say she's insane or the best, but in certain team comps she is unstoppable. In other team comps she's pretty whatever. She always has a bad early game, always has an crazy mid game spike though. If you have on Trinity Force, which I think is a broken item, more people should build Trinity Force. And obviously when she gets Titanic, she's really hard to kill.
Yeah.
So she's like a bruiser ADC kind of thing where she spikes so hard in the mid game, and then she just solo counters certain team comps. So I think she can be really scary. So she's pretty good in that area. And I think Ari actually kind of sucks. I mean, I think she's still really good, but from what all the bans suggest is she's gonna be this ubiquitous. You can pick Ari in almost any situation. We saw her come out a lot more in I think other regions, especially LEC, and I seen a lot of her weaknesses in that she cannot deal with bruisers. She cannot kill them. They're too tanky. She doesn't do enough damage to them, and she just honestly kind of just runs away and kind of kites them. She needs to charm them so other people can do damage to them.
Yeah.
So she's not like your traditional backline mage, and she can be an assassin, but it also feels like unless you're ahead, she still just doesn't do any damage. So it's a bit of a weird champion. Her base numbers are high right now, but if she ever gets nerfed, she will fall out of the meta very, very fast. So yeah, I think she's a little overrated. I think
too, like, you know what you said, she's kind of an assassin, but there are better assassins out there, and
yeah,
she also is like, you know, one of the things that I think make champions good in pro play is the lack of counterplay like that a champion can provide. And with Ahri, you have to hit a charm to even really be, you know, effective. Her other stuff is really easy to dodge. She doesn't. What does she have except dashes and, you know, and like you said, like, yeah, she can maybe assassinate somebody, and she can get resets and stuff like that.
It
but
takes a long time to assassinate somebody too.
Yeah,
right? 'Cause
you're right.
Yeah, it's like you got your W and your R auto target, and like yeah, those can do damage if you're fed. If you're not fed though, they tickle people, and you gotta land everything else. It's slow. It takes a while. You gotta
Her
so
spells need to be sped up. I think they're like too much in
yeah.
season 2, season 3 balance.
Yeah.
I think that's why she's probably like, you know, again, there's way better picks, you know, other than her. Like I remember watching the Team Liquid FlyQuest game, and Bjergsen was on Corki, and I just remember like the game was pretty boring. He was really not doing anything but just farming. And then there was just one play where it was like they had Jace, they had Corki, and they had some other poke, but like one hit and like you know, it just pokes him out so bad. And I'm like thinking to myself, this dude farmed up Corki just for this moment to hit one R and literally, you know, end it for it's the game. Like, because from there he got him so low, they just did Baron. You know, it's like, well, they can't contest. He's so low, we could just do Baron.
I remember Biofrost got hit by 2 rockets and died.
He was like at more than half health, and it just blew up. And I was like, what?
He also got popped. Someone also got popped by Jace's Hexgate.
Oh
thing.
Yeah. I think it was Johnson. Yeah, Johnson was hanging out. He just died to JCQ from halfway across the street.
NAJ's finally winning games. NAJ's top winning games.
The Pokemon is so stupid though. It's like, where did I go? I didn't do anything. Hanging out and I died.
It was pretty busted to see that. But I thought it was kind of funny though, because you're right. Like, what can you do with that? You got Jace and Corki just throwing those things.
Ahri has to work so hard to do anything like that. She's got to get in there. She's got to land everything, get out, and live somehow.
But she has
right?
resets now, at least.
And she can heal a lot, which is
a lot.
Yeah,
the heal might make her viable.
So
I think part of it is just players are out of practice. Ahri has not been a good champion for years.
Maybe that could be it.
I do think that is part of it.
This is true.
Yeah.
So for my meta read, First Strike Karthus, really cool. I did not know that First Strike was generating gold after you started. Honestly, I thought it was just like based off the hit. I was like, oh wait, you just get like 200 plus gold per Karthus. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Lot.
And then the other thing, and the more interesting thing is, finally someone picks Malphite, slaps a ward in the mail, and says, if you don't know how to play Jace, you auto lose this. If you're jungler and you don't know how to play the Jace top, you auto lose this. Because I'm like, why is he picking Jace here? And then he got absolutely smacked by someone who hasn't practiced Malphite. Like, you kidding me? I'm so sick of like teams just like, I don't know why. Maybe the top laners have egos or something. Like, I don't want to play a hard counter. And I'm just like sitting there like, have you never played solo queue before? Like, no matter what they do, no matter what the jungle does, you just don't want to go up there. Who cares if you kill full tank Malphite, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm glad they did that. I want to see more of it. I don't want to see only it, but I want to see more of it so that NA Jace gets deleted. Like, if you're good at Jace, play it. If you're Alfari, if you're Bwipo, if you're someone good at it, pick it. If you're wait, who even picked it? Was it?
It was Revenge, I think.
Oh god, yeah, it was Revenge. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely correct. I don't. Oh,
Revenge right now that's a whole nother meme in itself, because that's been.
I feel bad for him. He like his jungler didn't help him either.
Yeah, sorry.
NA tops just never.
Yeah, he's Viper 2.0, guys.
Yeah. Well, let me bring. Speaking of the top, NA tops is one thing that I had heard on. I believe it might have been JLXP or it could have been the dive. But they were talking about the smite top strategy, and I kind of want to tie this in with the meta thing. But one of the things they were saying as far as like how to counter it is that, you know, we were talking about, well, maybe get a strong split pusher top and just split push the whole time, or what I can't remember, like I said, who it was, but, or the other suggestion was just learn how to play around top lane that has a huge lead. And maybe it's been a thing in NA so long that we haven't really learned how to, you know, play around the top lane that's fed, that it kind of like they don't know what to do. Like, for example, I think the Gwen game where I don't know what team it was, but it was Gwen. She was split pushing, got really ahead, but instead of continuing to split push, didn't really seem like she was knowing what to do. So she started a group and team fight, and that's how they kind of lost the game. But what do you guys think about that? Like as a counter, another possible counter to this smite top. Well, okay, you want to roam the whole time? We're gonna pick a top laner, get him uber fed, and we're gonna play around him and snowball that side of the map and basically split map and, you know, do that, you know, on that side, because split map is not a new thing in League of Legends. People have done it all the time. So what are your thoughts on that? Do we just need to learn new ways to get other people fed besides, you know, just mid and bot and jungle?
I mean, yeah, that really is the most effective counter to the strategy. Even if you have like even if the enemy team is playing just like a regular, like a Karma mid without smite, and still building support items, the theory is still the same. Except though, I guess with that case, you kind of need to pick a 1-3-1 type comp. But if you have a roaming top laner, if you just pick something like a Gwen or a Scion or even like a Graves with Hullbreaker, you just run down that lane, and it eventually gets to the point, if they don't address it soon, you're either going to be knocking on their base or going to be strong enough to 1v2.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely the 1v2 thing is important, right? You need a champion that if they get to a certain level, they can 1v2. So you can throw in stuff like Jax Aurelia in there too. Like I think it was a JLXP where they're talking about like not only a champion that can push towers and get really fed and be a hyper carry, but that can also get into team fights, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Gwen honestly is like the perfect pick because you know what's really, really broken is an enchanter with an ADC. Like they just can run down everybody. But you know what's better? An enchanter with a bruiser. So like if you
Yeah.
just have a Gwen up there who's been farming your whole game, you just get your enchanter from your bot lane maybe, right? And you can just ditch your own ADC. That Gwen will 2v5 the entire game.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how strong their Janna like Jinx bot lane is. Like that Gwen will destroy them. So
Right.
I mean I just think yeah, it's teams just gotta play around it. But the part that like breaks it though is where the enemy jungler gets so big, and he's a bruiser, and he
Yep.
gets so big from his roaming top laner that he can deal with something like a Gwen. He stacks dragons, right? And he's made the enemy jungler useless. So it's a lot of give and take. I still think the roaming top strategy, if you perfect it enough and you have the right comp for it, that you're gonna be in an advantageous spot against whatever the enemy picks. Because if your jungler scales well enough, you're gonna probably be able to beat that enemy top laner that got to sit there and farm. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the Kindred pick with it.
yeah, Kindred is sure. Yeah, Kindred is along the same lines of Graves. They just scale into infinity, and they're really, really powerful.
I mean,
Well, Kindred
especially with
actually
Kindred,
scales.
you just you can contest every single mark. You have a support running with you. You just run into their jungle and force
It's true.
numbers
That's true.
advantage.
Yeah, you just run in there and kill them all and get all your marks. God, yeah. And I don't think we've actually seen the best Janet tops because they really don't abuse the jungle. When I play it, I am like in the jungler at level 1, auto attacking him on his first buff.
Yeah.
So we haven't really
Yeah.
seen that much happen. So yeah,
Yep.
I
you see
don't
stuff
think
like
the
that.
strat is that good, honestly. I've been watching LCK. Oh, sorry, I was a little far. I've been watching LCK and LPL. They haven't played it like basically like at all. Not even the bottom teams who like want to get cheese wins, right? They haven't played it at all. Sure, you could say like maybe it's just like they haven't practiced it. It's not worth practicing, or scrims like scrim partners don't want to practice against it because it's annoying. But like I'm just not that impressed. Like the only one that's impressed me ever was like that time where Impact died twice, and it was
Yeah, he
like
did.
pretty useful on Karma. Yeah, I'm like great. I mean, good stuff, but like could just be better with the real pick. So I'm off the
Yeah.
train. I think that like also Riot's nerfing it. are looking.
Oh
to
yeah,
nerf.
Riot's nerfing
So like,
it now.
all
Yeah.
that's out the window. No team's gonna practice it in a major region now because if they don't know it, why use it? And if they do know it, yeah, you could get maybe a free win, but like it's getting nerfed. So
Yeah.
conversation's over on that. Unfortunately, Riot decided to
Not
force the meta.
unfortunately. No.
Not
Unfortunately, in
Not
in the macro
unfortunately.
sense of let's keep strategic diversity. I don't think it's a good
I
strat.
don't.
So I
Yeah.
don't care that it's gone, but
I do think it's a good strat, and I think that these nerfs are gonna be, they're gonna swing it maybe a couple hundred golds, probably less than 1,000, more than 500 gold per game that you play it, but it's still incredibly powerful. Like
I still
the
think
amount of
it'll be viable.
it'll
Yeah.
be viable, and it'll be up to the teams to really practice it and get good at it, to keep doing it, and hope it doesn't get nerfed again. If it gets nerfed again, they're effed, right? But if
Yeah.
this is the only nerf to the strategy we see, it'll be very viable, and it'll still be very strong, and it's gonna be one of those things that's like only a couple of handful of things genuinely counter it if you're good enough at it.
Yeah.
So I'm still pretty scared that it's gonna hang around, and if teams don't pick it, I think that they're missing out, honestly.
Yeah. It's just hard because, we, again, not to say it over and over, but why practice a strategy if you think the trajectory is that they're just going to get rid of it or nerf it to
Right.
the ground where you can't do it. And that's why I don't want that to happen. But I think what I do agree with is the sentiment that it should be a viable strategy, maybe not for every game, but it shouldn't be OP like how it's currently been. But I think if you can get it to a state where, yeah, you have to execute the strategy pretty well, it can work, but you're also taking more risk doing it, and you have to play it properly, and coordinated in order for it to work. Then I would love to see that kind of stuff happen because I do want to see different kinds of strategies because it just makes the game more interesting to me, just to see something like that. But with that said, I do want to move on to just one game looking ahead because the only decent matchup is a replay of the lock-in finals. We have TL versus EG on Saturday. Real quickly, don't have to get too deep into it, but your prediction, are you saying EG reemerges here and gets the revenge, or is Team Liquid just going to keep holding it down?
I mean, it's hard to say, at least to me, it's hard to say EG because so far they've lost to 100 Thieves and Cloud9, who we're both arguing might be better than them, and TL is better than both of those teams, at least like unanimously among our power rankings. So it's hard to say EG's going to win. I mean, I would have TL pretty comfortably.
Yep.
Plus, I mean, they did 3-0 sweep them in finals, unless they did a lot of VOD review and know a lot of very minute details that are going to win them the game. I just don't see it happening.
Okay.
Yeah, I think barring outside of a cheese strat from EG, maybe Impact becomes a god at Janna top overnight, and then they cheese them and they
Wow.
win.
Yeah.
I think Team Liquid is, way better.
Okay.
Honestly, if you give Whippo a free lane and you just pick like Gwen or something, like, sure, play Janna top, man. Like, give him the Gwen, give him a free.
I'd like to see what he
5
does
turn
against.
plates.
I'd like to see what he does against, that kind of strategy.
Yeah, I wanted to see it against Cloud9. I wanted to see what Team Liquid were gonna do against an Enchanter mid. I mean,
Yeah.
they did something else, which is pretty cool, but yeah.
Yep.
My fear, actually, I'll let Kevin do his prediction first before I get to that.
I mean,
Yeah, Kevin is very clearly EG. Guys.
We know Kevin's for
I mean,
EG.
thank you for remembering me, because mine's the most controversial take.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think Liquid's gonna win. I usually would say something like, "Oh, I wouldn't be surprised." No, I think Liquid's gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty unanimous. All right, go ahead, Alistair.
Well, I was gonna say my theory on why Cloud9 didn't play Enchanters is because I think, and don't get me wrong, I think Enchanters are broken. I think we all do. But I think part of it is they're not practiced enough on it, and they know it is kind of cheese, which I think TL would just shut down. That's just the reason I think they didn't play it, because they played it against like who did they even play it against?
They beat EG with it. That was the only good team.
Okay, they beat EG with it.
Yeah.
And
then they beat like Immortals and like some other Golden Guardians or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they beat one good team. I just think they either expected TL to practice against it, so say, "Ha, joke's on you, we're gonna play standard," or it's like, yeah, this is actually a good team. We should probably play something that's
Something that,
better
that's not
and
super
isn't
crazy.
necessarily just cheese. I think it is a viable strat, but I don't think they're practiced enough to actually play it against Team Liquid and expect to win.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I can agree.
Yeah, they were pretty close with their standard comp as well. I think if just Fudge was able to pick it up a bit more, that game was actually winnable against Team Liquid. So
Yeah, and I
yeah.
also think, the Karthus, again, Blabber, I mean, his clearing looked fine, but he definitely didn't play Karthus, the way that you're hoping he would. And again, maybe that's just him not getting the reps in and he needs a few games on it to do it. I think, again, keep thinking of strategies like this, just get better at them. And I would love to see them try it again. Maybe don't do it against Team Liquid, though, because Team Liquid's too good of a team, right? Like, maybe try it against a lesser team. But did you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Oh boy, no, I don't. Except I just hope that we get some good games next week because we've had some great 2 weeks
Yeah.
of amazing games. I hope it just keeps going. No more snooze fests for the rest of the year, guys. Crazy
Yeah,
NA.
that's what I'm talking about, man. That's why I love
I'm
it.
personally just hoping TSM and CLG both go 0-2, so then week 4, when we get the co-streams back,
Yes.
we get
0-8
TSM
battle.
CLG during the co-streams, baby.
TSM versus CLG battle for 10th. Who will reign supreme as the worst
Yes.
team in LCS?
Someone should make a hype. Someone should make a hype video for that when it
Yeah.
happens. Because
It's happening, right? If they go 06, you see the editors are at it.
oh
Also,
my gosh.
do you guys? I was just gonna give some acknowledgments to the production. I thought that little touch they did for the C9 game, where they had like the Holy Choir music going on and like replaced Champs like music with it. I was like,
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's
And
Sunday.
then and then the Super Bowl bit, the one they did with Chris Myers. I thought it was gonna be kind of cringy because I don't really like football that much. I watch it enough, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was a good. They did it well. So like they've
It's okay.
hit more than they've missed. Yeah, it wasn't like the best one, but I thought it could have been much worse.
At least they're trying, and at least production has, I think, gone up this year.
Yeah, notably they got rid of some people, and it's
Yes.
way less hard to watch now. Who would have
Yes.
thought? Who would
Who
have
would've
guessed
thunk
it?
it?
You know what? I actually don't hate Emily Rand anymore. She's actually fine with
Yeah.
normal people around her.
Yes.
She plays off of the current people much better.
Yeah,
I
because
agree.
the other people were, they were bad.
Okay.
What I
well.
really want back, and this could be kind of controversial because Jat's so good in the analyst desk. I want the Jat interviews back post game.
Oh yes, I did like Jai.
Well, why can't he
interviews.
do both?
I think getting to the desk. I think getting back to the desk timing. I mean, they'd have to do like a
Just
weird.
do the
flip
interview at the
back
desk. I don't
desks.
care, man. It's
That's
like
true.
COVID
That's
era,
true.
right? We don't have
I
that.
want
I just
Jat.
think the Jat interviews were so good
Yeah,
in comparison to what we've had for the last few
I
years.
agree. I also want Jat back on the dive too.
I also want him casting. Actually,
Can we
why
just
doesn't
have
he
more
do it all?
Jats?
Yeah.
Can we just clone Jet and just put
He
him
just doesn't have to
everywhere?
coach again, and I'm happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
everywhere on the
honestly do
LCS.
think he could be. I mean, he's just so good at all of the different aspects of production. It would be, I wouldn't mind at all. So, anyways, that's gonna do it, guys. If you're listening, or ladies, if you are a lady and happen to be listening, if you like this podcast,
Smooth, Big Dad.
thank you. If you like this podcast and want to help support us, you know what you can do? You could leave a 5-star rating on wherever you are digesting this podcast, and tell your friends, tell all your league friends, tell your Clash, team. Follow the All In podcast because this is where it's at. So just wanted to throw that plug out there. We don't really plug our podcast that often, but I figured I'd throw that at the end. So thanks again to my awesome co-hosts Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair for always sharing your wise insights. But until next time, guys, try not to be too toxic. Enjoy your climb on the rift, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Peace.